Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa,
Waheguru
Waheguru
Ji
Ji
Ki
Ki
Fateh.
Fateh. Benji, such a pleasure to have you on the podcast today,
Thank
the Mindset
you.
series. And I guess we've got some time today just to explore certain aspects of your journey around health, wellness, and linking it into your Parcharak as well.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that you wanted to explore was your journey with health over the past few years. So yeah, wherever feels right to start, please go ahead and share.
Thank you for having me here as well. I've been watching the series on YouTube, and now that we are here, so I do want to speak about, I think, when I was going through cancer. I think not many people know, or General Sangat know that I'm a cancer survivor, and also other things that I had to go through while doing Parcharak and before doing Parcharak as well. So I got married in the year 2015 in December, and 4 months after that, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, stage 2B. So it's like borderline stage. But it's so amazing. It was an asymptomatic finding. So there was no symptoms, and no one could really tell physically that you have a disease. And it just so happened that I have these pimples on my legs, and we have been going around for 6 months, 8 months, trying to figure out what it was. And no doctors, swab tests, every kind of test, they couldn't figure out what it was. They could just say that it was a skin infection. Until one day, I remember I was working that night, and my manager goes like, you need to go to the emergency right now. You're not coming into work tomorrow. You need to figure this out. So I go in, and they say that just get admitted because there was no doctors around. The next morning, a lung specialist comes to see me, and he says, let's just get an X-ray done, chest X-ray done. And I said, are you all right? I mean, the problem's in my leg, and what trying to see my X-ray for? He says, let's just get that out of the way so we know it's not an issue. But it was through that X-ray that we figured out we saw a shadow behind my breastbone, and I feel that whatever happened that night leading to that morning was Guru Sahib signaling that you have to do this. It was that intuition that just get it done, and sending these not having the right doctor and then sending a random lung specialist in, and from that X-ray, then I had to do a CT scan, and they confirmed that it is a lump there. And then we had to do a CT scan biopsy, which is under the CT scan machine where they go inside, they cut you open to get the sample out. But that was unsuccessful. So I had to go into surgery where they collapsed my lungs and take the pieces out. And it was from there then they figured out that it was cancer. And I remember when the results came, and I was sitting in the hospital, and this was it was after Vaisakhi, and the results came, and they said, this is what you have. And I was alone, and I was trying to think to myself, okay, literally this is what came to my mind. How do I respond to this? Normally when something happens, we just immediately let emotion take over, and we cry, we blame, and we just throw things. And so I was sitting down thinking that how do I respond to this? So I could, be really upset and blame everyone, blame Waheguru, and ask why is this happening, and and not see the light at the end of the tunnel. Or I could take a deep breath and say, okay, fine. So this is now the challenge. Now, how do we overcome this? So my husband came in, and I was telling him this and that, and he was like, okay, fine. So now let's figure out a way to go through with this. And so we we looked at all our medical options financially. And this is one thing I wanted to share as well. Financially, we were not good. He just got a job, and my job was not paying well. And we just paid a deposit for our apartment, our condominium. And when the doctor said that this is the amount that, it's going to cost you this much, and it was nearing to 100,000 ringgit Malaysia.
Mhm.
So it's a lot for us. Okay. And the company that he was working with, they covered my whole payment, medical payment. Mm. And the funny thing is, 3 months before I got married, I didn't have any insurance, personal insurance of my own. And he says, you need to get an insurance. And I said, what for?
Mm-hmm.
But then my dad we don't believe in insurance, basically. But what happened was that we got that insurance. And that insurance then, of course, they didn't believe, because we have that maturity period of 6 months to a year where you shouldn't have any red flags. And I had that red flag within 4 months of me getting that insurance, and they didn't believe that it was asymptomatic. They thought that I lied. Okay. So we had to send in a lot of documents, a lot of proof, evidence from the doctors. And eventually, I had a payout from the company. So Maharaj, with this dukkha that I was going through, they even prepared everything. You're going to go through this dukkha, but then financially, don't worry about it. Sangat-wise, don't worry about it. You need to be strong. You have this, I give you this, and to fight this battle. And we didn't have to worry financially as well. It was all well taken care of. Now the question was, how am I going to prepare myself mentally? And so this was after my surgery, and my husband goes like, "Hor kise da asra nahi. Asra se Vaheguru da hi hai na? Te tumri aas bharosa tumra naam hriday le tarna," Gurbani says. And so we did 12 hours of Sukhmani Sahib job.
Just translate.
So tumri aas means my hope is on you, on Vaheguru. Bharosa tumra, that I have full faith in you. Tumra naam hriday le tarna, that I take your naam, Paramatma's naam, Vaheguru's name within my heart, and I remember that, and I take the parosa, I have faith on Vaheguru, and I take the asra of Vaheguru. So we did a 12 hours Sukhmani Sahib job at home, and he did most of it because I couldn't sit down. But if we speak about it, he will say his part of the story. It was because of the job we did that I feel that we could overcome all those challenges, those mental challenges, health-wise and all. Because I had to go through chemotherapy, 6 months, 12 cycles, 6 cycles of chemotherapy. So 2 sessions each cycle. So 12 sessions basically. And it was emotionally very challenging, because before we started the chemotherapy, it was funny. My doctor, he's amazing, bless him, Dr. Vijaya. And he goes like, he put a glass of pani in front of me, and he asked me, is this glass, how do you see this glass? Is it half filled or half empty? And I go like, it's half filled. Good. So you're on the positive side, And if you said it was half empty, then you're looking at the negative side of it, that something's lacking. And then he looked at my dastar, and he says that, I know that you're a Sikh and you have this discipline that you follow, but it is going to be very difficult for you because you're going to lose your case. So he said, this is just a suggestion for you to cut your case so you don't have to go through that mental torture. And I looked at Palvinder Singh, and it was at that moment, it was just there was no doubt. We didn't have to think about it, that we were not going to do anything with this case. So I started my treatment, and you see, with that whole treatment that I was going through, we had to be very conscious of not only our diet, how they say you have to make sure your diet is well taken care of, but it was also the environment. So for us, our environment is the sangat that we, spend our time with, what we see, what we watch, our family and all that. And we were very, very particular with the kind of sangat that we were with at that point. Okay. And of course, it's a mentality and a human nature that when someone's going through dukkha, we will come and do of souls or masos, and they are, like where you come and you sympathize with them. Yeah. And but sometimes we don't need that sympathy. Or now we say we need that empathy where you understand and not just say, oh, Vaheguru ne eh changa nahi kita, like God didn't do right by you, like it shouldn't have happened, you know. So all this negative statement where you're already trying your level best to be very positive, you know. So we were very this was something that I could never do, where I couldn't say no to anyone, or we were very at that place that we just accept anything and everything, what people say. We can't say no to anything. But it was at that point of my life where I've learned to say no to things that are not going to help me progress spiritually or physically, mentally as well. And we even had to say no to our own family members. Like, look, we love you, but at this point of our journey, it would be best if, we keep some distance between us. And
so at that point, so you were talking about, when you're diagnosed with something such as cancer, they're telling you to look after what you're putting into your body. But what we put into our body is more than just food. It's the emotions, it's the thoughts that are coming. And you're saying that you kind of protecting yourself in a way. You're being very careful, very selective about who to allow into that space.
Yeah.
But just as a kind of a question, would you say that was just something you were doing once you had the diagnosis, or would you say there was a cause and effect there? Could that have been something that had led to the cancer? How do you view the cancer?
That is a very good question, Benji. How I view the cancer is that my whole childhood, I've just kept everything inside. So again, like, just let everything in and just take everything in. And of course, that is a separate topic, but I did have a traumatic childhood coming from a broken family. And, so it was just taking all that bojo, all that dukkha in, and not having someone or somewhere that I could even just share and speak out and, let my emotions out to halka kar, like let out of your burden, Hana. And I feel that funny thing is, do you know where the tumor was situated? Right on top of my heart.
Right.
So, when we say this is a burden on my heart, like there's this boj, there's this weight sitting on my heart, and physically it just manifested there, So this is how we can relate the mind in itself to the physical body. Guru Sahib, Gurbani always connects the mind to the body and say that these are not separate things, it's all one. And what kind of life or what kind of state your mind is, it will manifest into this physical body. And I see it that way, that the fact that all this boj of that physical world, I've just kept it in me, into my mind, not being able to let it out. And now physically it manifested into that weight sitting on my heart. And doctors couldn't even do a surgery to take it out. It was that close to my aorta. So we had no choice but to do a chemotherapy and, kill all the cells. So it was from all of that that it just finally, and we could say just a bomb, like a blast, where it just built up. And the lump, Benji, was 10 centimeters in diameter. That big it was. So I think that journey, Maharaj really, we were having this conversation where Maharaj trying to put us in a certain situation because they want to teach us something and for us to gain something out of it. And this was for me a learning experience, where I start evaluating how I'm living my life. I was a very negative person before this, where I used to sympathize with myself, like, oh, no one loves me. I'm the worst person in this world. I'm so silly. All this negativity was built up in my mind until I came into Sangat of certain Gursikhs, and they would they would help me to point out that, look, right now you're in this negativity. You need to come out of it. And they helped me to come out of it. So when I was going through that chemotherapy with all the, diagnosis and doctors saying where it is situated exactly, and I was like, wow, it just, Guru Sahib is telling me, look, all this cause and effect, cause and effect immediately. And with the Sangat as well. So that's why I was very, aware that I do not want addition of all that dukkha, all that negativity. I want it to clear out, so we were very conscious of the kind of sangat that we allow into our house, or whoever would come and meet me. He was very strict. Like if you were to come and do massage and hi ki ho gaya, we don't appreciate that. But if you're going to come and do Bani, read Bani, even sometimes, like when I was going through my treatment, I couldn't even focus on doing my Nityaneem. It was that bad. But the Sangat would then help me to not feel guilty that I wasn't able to do it, And I met this Gursikh couple from online meeting from US, and they have done Sangat of Pai Rama Singh Ji and Pai Rajinder Singh Ji. And this Benji was saying that I've had those down moments where I just couldn't do my Nityaneem. Then we find other ways to connect to Gurbani. So I had always had Gurbani playing in the background. Or what would happen was that this was a very nice gesture. So where we used to do Sangat and that Asthan, the old Bibbiya, Matawa, all the old ladies, they got together and they said, we will do Sukhmani Sahib job for you every month. And all I had to do was, so I had to wear this mask. I had to not go out, with compromised person. And they say, koi na tu aake baith ja, or you just lie down here, sit down, whatever is comfortable, and just listen to the part. So I would just come, listen to the part in a corner of the Darbar Sahib, and then go home. But that gave me that energy that really uplifted me, that this is what we need, that positive energy. So we were very conscious of what we allowed into our life and what we, separated ourselves from.
That is amazing, because how many years ago was this? A few years?
So this was 2016.
2016.
5 years now? Yeah.
Because, we're only coming to understand now scientifically the power of prayer, the power of energy, and the impact it has on our mindset and physiology. And the fact that you, because of your connection to Gurbani, you already had a sense, you already had that faith in actually the prayer is very powerful in healing.
Yeah.
And they've done all this research, haven't they, where they've looked at, they'll get people to pray in a particular neighborhood where there's a high crime rate. And they'll look at the rates of crime as time goes on, and it reduces in those areas for the time that those people have been praying there. And so, like, scientifically now we're catching up with what Gurbani and other mystical traditions have said for so long. But it's amazing hearing you, because even when you asked that question to Benji, I wasn't sure how Benji would respond, because that's quite a strong question, where does the cancer come from, as in, because not many people are on board with the idea that they can create or dissolve illness through what's happening mentally or through their sangat. And so the fact that you were so kind of already on board with that idea and open to that is so powerful, and it's probably one of the most powerful things that enabled you to then take
Move
on
forward,
the things you needed to do to heal.
True.
Because we can, when it comes to health, it can take such a long. We work with people, and you yourself have talked openly about your journey with health. We can't get people to that point where they understand that they could have there could be some reason or cause.
That's why Gurbani says that de dos na deo kise dos karma apne jo main kiya so main paya dos na dijiye abar jana, that we can't blame anyone for what we are going through. It's jo main kiya, whatever I've done, it's a cause and effect. Whatever I've done to myself, whatever I allow into my body, into my mind, I have to pay for all that. So,
and even further, we hear about Farida, right? Farida Bureda Palakar Gussa man na hadaye, dehi rog na lage, palle sakich paye. So there's that direct correlation between gussa and rog in your body, a disease, right?
Interesting point was that because of all that trauma, I had so much anger in me and so much trust issue that I couldn't just trust anyone. And I used to be every little, for example, if someone did something that I had expectation, they didn't do it, I would just lash out and get angry, and it just all built up. You know?
And were you aware of this before you were diagnosed, or did that cause you to delve into what could have?
The diagnosis helped me to really delve into how I've been living my life in the past, allowing all this negativity and just building up that bomb in me until it just blasted out that year in 2016 with my diagnosis. And then, so it was a lot of reflection. You know how Gurbani says, "Khoj, bande khoj, dil har roj," reflection every day. And that was then when I even found my purpose, like what I really want to achieve in life. You know how we just live our life and like mindless activity, blindly just living our life and just taking it all in, or just throwing it out there, not knowing what you really want to achieve in your life. But that was the point. Then a lot of things started opening up. You can call like a sense of realization, or I
mean, we can even go as far as to call it an awakening, right? Because Maharaj is telling us, we're walking around asleep. We're stuck in our cycles of working and family and the politics and gossip. And sometimes, that's the wake-up call. That literally is when you have something big happen. It's unexpected, but that's what then leads to that khoj that you talked about, that search for something bigger. Every day we say, isn't it? Dukkadaru, sukharupaya.
True.
So, when that dukh comes, then we look for something bigger. If we're just going through our day and, we just kind of get used to a certain level of even anxiety or stress, and it becomes normal. So in a way, like even though you're talking about something as big as the C word, cancer, it's a gift in its own way, right?
It is. I would say it is a gift. It is a gift, truly, that because if I didn't go through that, I would say, of course, Maharaj does everything, Guru Sahib does everything, but I wouldn't be here right now, being able to look back and reflect and help others going through the same journey, or went through the same journey, And when I was doing that chemotherapy, I mean, physical pain and all that was fine. It was on its own level, right? With all the drugs and all that. But I think one of the hardest period that I had to go through, that 6 months, was losing my case. Because in a way, it is our identity, And because I was already tying a dastar on my head, but there was no case left on my scalp, I couldn't bring myself to not tying a case or a dastar. So I would find different ways, tying a shawl that I'm wearing right now, wrapping around my head. So I still have that identity with me. It was that one day where I was keshi shnan kita. I washed my kesh and I was just combing it, and it just came out in like this huge amount. I sat there crying.
Right.
Sorry.
That's okay. Take time, Benji.
But the appreciation for Sikhi was so strong at that moment, because I was thinking about Gursikhs like Bhai Mati Das Ji and Bhai Taru Singh Ji, who wouldn't give up, their case for anything. It could be the greatest gift or the greatest wealth in the world, and they wouldn't give up their case for it. And so now when people say that when they want to keep Sikhi, they want to, become a Sikh, take Amrit, but case is an issue for them. I guess in a way, when we lose something, then we have the appreciation for that gift. And that was that realization I had then. And every day from that day on, it was me doing ardas at Maharaj, I need this back. It was not for that beauty. It was not for that. I mean, I practically, like, how Mona Lisa is without eyebrows. Well, I think Indian version of Mona Lisa, but every day was the ardas that Maharaj, this is your gift. And, you know, I want, this is the thing that is keeping me together. And every day until now, so now that I'm here, my sister Alamji, she has seen my case like growing from when I joined the academy. And that day she was massaging my scalp, like, Berne, tere case lambe ho gaye. Like, oh sister, your case has become so long. I say, yeah, you know, that joy. So I can't believe from that moment where I was so down, and now I'm here back to where it's back long, and you know, it's Guru Sahib's kirpa, hai na? So that was a difficult point for me. But then what then uplifted me at that point was that remembering the Sakya and the Itihas, connecting to Gurbani, and then Sangat. So my husband was a really strong support. He would say, like, don't worry about it. You know, they will come back. You know, you need to, we are here for you. All these positive words. And some of the Sangat that I kept were not even Sikh. It was like my Chinese best friend. And she would be like, very simple gestures, like coming to my house and like, Gurprit, what are you doing? You know, let's do this together. Like, take me out of that moment. You know, sometimes we say in that negativity that we are just sinking into it. Someone just needs to come and just grab us out from that drowning. So it was that coming out from that. It really helped.
Some of the things that you've talked about that helped you, for anybody out there who's going through their own adversity. So you've talked about Sangat and where kind of your mind is and the things that you can appreciate. What else would you say, almost like as a toolkit, that were the things that really held you and got you through that time?
So the first thing is Gurbani. Even we don't have the strength to read Gurbani on our own, but we could listen. Or like what I went through, as Sangat was doing it for me. In a way or another, the asar, the fala, the fruit, you will still get it. Because without Gurbani, then how are we going to destroy our karam, right? Second is the Sangat. So be very aware. And sometimes we are very afraid to say no to people. Like, oh, loki ki kahange, they might get upset with me. They might think that I'm rude. But it's not about the world. It's about you, and you know, you have to, so these illnesses that we are going through, the world is not going to help us solve it or get rid of it. You have to do it from inside, Hana. And so the Sangat that you are with, like, my husband was a very great support, and find people who help to uplift you to come out of it. You know why I say that? One of my own colleague, like I studied with her, she had leukemia, but she couldn't go through the chemotherapy. She gave up halfway because she just thought that she couldn't do it.
Right.
And when I see her, and I tell my husband, I say, you need to tell me that if I'm about to go down, I say, I cannot do it. And I had those days where I say, I just can't do it anymore. And he says, no, you know, he's like, you can, you know, you will be able to do it. Right? It's all in your mind. So someone reminding us, it's all within your mind. Tell your mind you can do it. So, you know, another thing that, I mean, going off track, but what I discovered is I started speaking to myself, speaking to my mind. Like, we don't do that anymore, Benji. Like, it's weird nowadays. People say, why are you speaking to yourself? Or, you know, but Gurbani says that. Gurbani speaks to the mind and speaks about the mind. Guru Amar Daji says, "E man meria," right? Oh, my mind, right? And so I would speak to my mind and say, I know you're feeling down. I know you're upset. You're sad. But we need to be strong. We can do it. So even looking at myself in the mirror and just, so breathing really helped. I'm like, I can do it, you know? And
just going back, one point was, you know, sometimes we think Sangat is just the people that are around us, but the Sangat are your vichar, are your thoughts as well. So that's just as important for those, you know, you were blessed in that sense that you had your husband, you had your best friend, but some people might feel alone in the world. And, you know, the biggest, most important Sangat alongside, Maharaj and Guru Granth Sahib Ji is your mind, and we can convince our mind, but we have to have that compassion as well.
Yes.
To keep working on it. And, everything that Sikhi gives us, the compassion, but the discipline as well is hearing, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but even you, right, had those bad days where you would struggle. So it's okay to feel that way, but it's also okay. Like we say, it's okay to not be okay. And for me, it's okay to flip it as well and say it's okay to not be okay. But it's okay to then, find ways to make yourself okay again, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. It does.
And Guru says, everything's within us, right? So that voice that is speaking to the mind is the Atma. And being able to create that separation when you haven't experienced that before is, I feel like it's part of the journey of Sikhi and
it's not just the Atma, it's, recognizing the Panchchora whispering in your ear as well. So they're the ones who are telling you can't do this and give up. And so it's tuning in. And for me, sometimes people say, how do you know which is which? And it's, one is pure love and one is fear. So if it's fear-based, then okay, that's the bunch. They're trying to bring me down. But if it is coming from a place of love and compassion and it feels like truth to you, then that's the one I'm going to really tune into, right?
True. And so that sangat, like you mentioned, Benji, is the physical sangat, but it's also the sangat you have with yourself and what you allow into this mind as well. So, things we do around our daily routine. And I wouldn't keep myself unoccupied. So, sitting down idly. Of course, when the body is really tired, then I would rest and I watch some TV, some shows, or read some books, whatever I could. But then I did tell myself that I want to go back to work. So I eventually did go back to work while going through my chemotherapy on the days that I could. So I keep myself occupied. I keep myself busy with the things that I do, the things that I enjoy doing, and eventually, and so this was the thing, the power of the mind, Hannah. My doctor said that the minimum set of the sessions that you need to do is 6 cycles. But if, let's say, at the end of 6 cycles, when we do your check, it doesn't work, we need to extend to 8. And I told myself, whatever happens, I'm only going to do 6, not more. So I had to keep telling myself that you're going to make it work. So every day was constantly speaking to myself and, you can do it. And even to the point where, when doctors used to give medication like, okay, anti-vomiting, anti-nausea, anti-this, anti-that and all that, just to help, I would try my very level best to make that the last resort, not resorting to just medication and, so trying my level best. If I really can't, then I would resort to medication. When I came out of it, Benji, as those 6 months, I was contemplating a lot. So what my circle of sangat would be, what I want to allow into my life, how I want to live my life, what my purpose, what do I want to achieve from my life. Even Gurbani says that, I think you would know this, there are 3 fundamental questions we need to answer when we come into this world. Who am I? Why am I here? And where am I going after this? What do I want to achieve? Even Gurbani says that, that where have you come from? What are you doing here? And where are you going to sama? Where are you going to unite, after this? And that's when I decided to give up my job, which was not the right decision because we were under a lot of financial stress with the house and I was earning a bit more than him. So me giving up. And he said that the question was, how are you going to survive? And this was another moment I vividly remember that I just let go.
Right.
And I said, I don't know. It's very difficult because I come from a place that I need to have this much money. I need to have a house, a car, financial stability, all that. I mean, we grew up in the kind of mindset. And I just told him, I said, I don't know. He didn't then question or argue with me because that was I was going through that kind of period. But because I let go and my plate practically became empty, that's when I saw Maharaj filling up the plate for me.
Right.
In the same month that I tendered my resignation, and I tendered my resignation and my company rejected. And my manager calls me in and she says that, look, I'm going to give you a managerial position where you manage another branch, your own branch. It will increase your salary. I mean, word-wise, worldly, we look at it like, wow, it's so enticing, might consider it. I went back. I just sat down on my chair. No. I went back to the manager and said, no, this is my, I want to resign. But in the same month, one of the Sanghas sent me the application to Basics of Sikhi Academy. Wow. And I've never heard about Basics. I've never heard about Bhai Jagraj Singh. For the fact that Bhai Sahib came to Malaysia, we didn't even know about it. And I was like, what is this? But because it just popped up, it's like, you know what? Let me just give it a try. Wow. And from then on, I'm here.
Yeah.
So I was thinking back. I said, Maharaj, you're really amazing, We're not willing to let go because we think that once we let go, things are going to go haywire. We are in control of everything, right?
And that's it. So we've been taught and conditioned through school, through family that, even in a way, like we say, ape bij ape kau, but we take it in the sense that, if you go to school, if you get your education, whatever you're doing is creating it. And Maharaj talks about don't praise the painting, praise the painter.
Yes.
And so you need that level of trust to surrender in that way. And so a lot of us feel like we want to do that. Like even me, I was just saying, we're looking for this car and I just want to surrender and say, Vaheguru, I know, that car, whatever it is, it's going to come into our life. But it's so difficult because we've been programmed to be, do the hard work. And I'm not saying, don't do it. But then there's this let go of the expectation, let go of the outcome and be in trust because sometimes we talk about Dr. Joe Dispenza and he had this accident where he was on a bike and he got run over and his whole back was broken. And one of the things that I remember reading and hearing from him was he kept repeating to himself, the intelligence that made the body can heal the body. And it's just knowing that I didn't make this body. I didn't choose these parents, I didn't even choose my own name, right? But there's this bigger force. And in order to trust it, we have to make a relationship with it. And I always say, when you met your husband or, whoever it is in your life, you didn't trust them straight away. There's very few that will say, I trusted them. I know I was introduced to my husband. I didn't trust him straight away because I didn't know him. But the more I created a relationship with him, started to talk to him, got to know him, we got to the point where there was trust. Yeah. And it's the same with Maharaj, right? You have to build that personal relationship with Guru, through Gurbani, through Simran, through that Khoj that you talked about, that search within your heart. Then you can, start to get to that place where you can give up. And I'm guessing in a funny way, facing death kind of helped you to prioritize and to understand that.
We forget that death probably is one of the reality that we can't see. We just think that, you see, what I'm trying to say is that we are not trying to say that live your life and, don't enjoy life at all. I mean, I still enjoy my life. I love traveling. I still do that, But when we let go, and, you mentioned about expectation, I think the reason of first going through dukkha is because of expectations. When we have expectations from someone and it doesn't go as we expected, we get angry at that person. Like a child is supposed to eat this much food and she doesn't. And you go like, Yoni Kandi, and we start worrying. So it's expectations, right? But once we let go, and when we say we let go, it doesn't even mean that we don't put in effort, because we have to put in effort as a Sikh. But we are no longer in control of the result. So that's the expectation part, that if I do this, I must expect this result. The result is in the hands of Paramatma, of Vaheguru. We just do how much we can. How much Guru Sahib wants to give us, when they want to give us, how they want to give us is up to them. And when we are able to live our life in this surrender and when we let go, I feel that a lot of things that even we have not thought for ourselves, all these beautiful things, like right now where I am, it just happens. Because you now empty your plate and say, Maharaj, whatever you want, you put it into my plate. And Guru Sahib says, okay, if you allow me to work, And
We always talk about how we've got to get out of the way
Yeah.
of the grace because it's sharing upon us. But the mind, man ki mat, Tyago harjan, hukum buj sukhbai, like it's us that get in the way. And then when we can clear that away, which is really hard, but I guess dukh is what does that.
It does. That's why dukh is daru. You know, it literally is the medicine. Yeah. And I don't know, but many people might not agree, but when we go through dukkha, I would say take it as a blessing. Because Guru Sahib is helping us to see the path, to see the light. And if we are not going through any form of dukkha, then either something is wrong or you're living a perfect life. Or, you know.
And it's, you know, it's dukh is a knock at the door. And, you know, we don't always have to wait for the knock at the door. So it's not like it's an absolute requirement that your life should be filled with dukkha.
But no.
And, you know, a lot of your story, and we can talk about it another time, but I can relate to a lot of it, you know, health issues, leaving my job, surrendering, you know, how much Guru, you know, showed up. And Guru's always there. It's just, you know, being able to see it.
But then even after that, Benji, even after I let go, I still had to go through episodes of where Guru Sahib, either it was a reminder that, you know, not everything is in your control. I mean, you know, all that. I remember because after the consequences of my chemotherapy was that I was going to be infertile, 80%. And this was again something doctor said, well, if you want to preserve your eggs, you can, but again, financially we're not able to. So we just went on without it. But I went through 2 miscarriages during my time of doing Parcharak. And so this was very recently, like 3 years ago and then 2 years ago. And but the first pregnancy I had, it was a sign that I could get pregnant. So that miscarriage, it was a difficult one, but then it was a good sign that I could try again. Until the second one happened, that was more difficult because you see, I had that expectation that it was going to work out, and you know. And the most difficult part was that I had the miscarriage the same week. I had to do katha on Mata Ganga Ji, asking for a child from Baba Buddha Ji. That was another wake-up call for me because after I came back from that pain, I came back from the hospital, I remember again very vividly, I reached home and the first thing I did was lie down on my couch and like helplessly, and my husband goes like, Ki kare? I said, I just need to lie down and do nothing. And I was letting all these thoughts come into my mind that it's not going to work out, you know. You're not meant to be. It's not gonna work out. You just leave it, and you know, no hope and all that kind of thing. All these negative things, right? Why is it happening? You know, and so on. And then he comes to me. So we need that reminder sometimes when we are not able to remind ourselves. Then someone from outside, a sangat comes in, or any other source comes in to remind us. Then we just need to accept that and allow that voice to come in. And he said that, how long are you going to be like this?
Right.
And I thought, well, I've never thought about it. Maybe, can I do it for a day? You know? But what are you going to get out of it?
Yeah.
Well, again, I never thought about it because we allow the emotion, that feeling just to take over us. So we've not thought about how long are you going to stay or what are you going to get out of it, right? Yeah. And we're not saying you can't feel sad or upset. No, these are normal human emotions. We feel them, right? We have those emotions. But then he says that, okay, so how about accepting it now? You know, accepting it, but recognizing that you are going through pain, you're going through that loss, that separation, but you're aware of that rather than having all these negative emotions that the mind is telling you you're not worth it, you're not good enough, you know, you're not going to be a mom at all. These kind of thoughts, you know, but realizing that I have gone through that pain, my body needs to heal, you know, and that soul, maybe looking at that the soul came through me, and it was just a journey that soul had to go through and through me, or in a way, you know. And so then the question was, so I set up, and I remember I said that there's katha on Saturday and it's on Mataji and Baba Buddhaji, and he says, it's good. I said, I cannot do it. But he said, you should do it even more, because the katha that you're going to do is coming from a place of experience, and that you can feel that same pain and emotion that Mataji would have gone through asking for a child.
Right.
And Benji, that katha was the most difficult katha I had to do. And it's the katha that I remember, it's so close to my heart. Because no one knew, again, so we don't openly speak about this miscarriages or this kind of topic because it's taboo, and and people, I don't even understand why, right? So Sangat, they don't know what I went through, but I was sitting on the stage and I was clenching my fist and trying to control my tears from coming out, but of course I couldn't control. But it was how then we relate to Mataji and what was their state of mind. And in a way, Guru Sahib is teaching us, we ardas kidna karniya. How are you going to ask from Maharaj? And that then inspired me to do what Mataji did. So then I went to Darbar Sahib and I say, well, Mataji, thank you for telling me. I went to Darbar Sahib and then I did the Misse Parshade, the Gande, everything on my own. I went to Baba Buddha Ji's Asthan. I said, Baba Ji, you could do anything. You're a Brahman, you could do anything and everything. Parosa, full faith, na? And I did all of that, all Parshada Shakya. We had the Parshada with the Ganda. And a year after that, when I came back during COVID, I conceived Rasai naturally without any, intervention. And for me, that is another miracle. Blessing Maharaj has done, because I've just gone like, Maharaj, thal mera khaliya, tusi dena de do, nahi dena, I'm happy. I'm content. And they just gave.
And there's another message in there as well. And I normally have this conversation with someone in Sangat, and they would say, they went through a lot of hard times in their life, and at that time they didn't see it. But when they look back now, they could see, all the people that were placed there to help them, all the messages that were there. And I was saying about this car, and I love using personal experiences. I say now, like, I used to drive down the road, I could see the sky, I could see the trees. Now all I see are cars, because that's what's in my mind, right? But when we're looking for something in our lives, if we open our mind out to look for those signs from Guru, we call them synchronicities, you will find them. But you have to be able, again, it's about letting go and just expanding your awareness, to look for those things. Maybe that thing isn't for you, but behind that is something much more amazing, like working for Basics as opposed to your other job. And I had a similar experience. I took this job and I knew it wasn't right, and I let go, and podcasts popped up straight after. So, again, that it comes back to that sense of trust as well. But, what you said about Ardas and Benji is saying as well, it's so powerful. And just because we don't understand how it works doesn't mean it doesn't work. It doesn't work, because it totally does.
And in any way you do Ardas, like, of course, there's one that you do, in Darbar with full protocol, but that Ardas that comes from within, because Gurbani says, Birthi kade na hove jan ki Ardas. Every Ardas that we do will never go to waste. And if Gurbani is saying that, so literally any thought, any Ardas that we do, Guru Sahib listens.
But again, we have to let go of that expectation.
True.
Because there's this story I always tell. I was listening to Osho, and he was like, there's a guy and he wanted this perfect wife and beautiful and funny, but he didn't consider the mother-in-law. So, and that's the thing, as bache and having children of our own, we can see, my daughter might ask for ice cream, but if she's got a khang, if she's got a cough, I'm not always going to give it to her. So sometimes, we might say, I've been doing ardas for years for a bacha, that's a difficult one, right? Is if you've been doing that ardas, there's going to be people who are watching saying, I've been doing it, but it hasn't come true for me. So what would you say to that?
Again, like what Benji, you are saying, right? That I've done many ardas that it's not fulfilled or not yet fulfilled. We can do our ardas. It's back to the same thing. We put our effort. We do our ardas. But when and how Guru Sahib wants to give is completely dependent on them. Because like, when we let go, that's when we see somehow there's just more blessings coming in that we might not have thought for our own life, and things much better for us. Guru Sahib, the same as well. Once you do whatever you think that is good for you and you let go, that Maharaj tusi dena, de do, nahi dena, ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਚੰਗਿਆਈ even Gurbani says ਜੇ ਸੁਖ ਦੇ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਝੇ ਅਰਾਦੀ ਦੁੱਖ ਵੀ ਤੁਝੇ ਧਿਆਈ in sukh and in dukha I will still remember you see with ardas it's not a deal we tend to make ardas like a deal kind of thing
like a worldly
there you
transaction.
Go right transaction that I'm doing this so this must come out of it and then so what if then that transaction doesn't happen then are we going to break that connection or are we going to then say that look it doesn't work anymore so what works for me might not even work the same way for you that's why Sikhi is still a personal journey so like how I went through my personal journey some might relate to it and some might say no but it worked for me the other way so again we always tend to make this mistake where we think that there's only one way for everything but Sikhi, we look at all the Bhagats. Some Bhagats were king and they became a Bhagat. And some were the lowest caste, but they became a Bhagat as well. Right? So again, trying to get that understanding that there's no one right way. There's many. So, if you're trying to go to, like, for example, come to Slough, there's a jungle way, there's a highway, there's, the inner way and all that. But eventually you reach your destination. Same as well.
Yeah.
I think for me, something that struck me was this idea of bharosa when you're doing ardas. As in, bharosa, not even that obviously Vaheguru is unlimited and anything is possible, but also beyond that, which is, I trust you so much that I will not even ask in that way that is that transactional way. It's that I will ask in that way, which is that if this is right for me, then please give it. It's almost, it's not even a plea, it's almost just a surrender. It's that kind of a surrender. I've done that. So with my husband, I was like, I'd be like, it'd be nice to marry this kind of husband. And then I'm like, but Vaheguru, if that's right for me, if that's going to ultimately take me closer to Naam, then please bless me with that.
And that's it, is we've got to zoom out of our lives. We're significantly insignificant in the scheme of the universe, of the cosmos. And when we zoom out, and you talked about purpose earlier, is, what is our ultimate purpose? Gobind Milan ki ek teri bariya. So it's understanding, at the end of the day, what we want to ask for is, the rest is sir dukhan ke dukh, right? Deho naam santokhiya, uttare man ki bhukh. But that becomes a bahana. So we all have these desires, whether it's for a child, whether it's for health or for wealth. And it's okay to start there. But eventually, and that was my experience, was it started with, I want my health back. But it became that love story. It became that journey of love that, okay, whether my health comes back or not, like I have found a jewel. I found, the meaning, the purpose of my life. And that's irrelevant now. And when you let go at that level, all of those things, they start to unfold the way they were meant to unfold. And it's just remembering that. And it's difficult if you're not in that mindset. Because if you've focused on for the last 5, 10, 20 years is that one thing that you want, it's difficult to let go. But I guess my kind of understanding is you've been trying that for so long. So why not give it a go? Just let go and see what unfolds from that. If you don't have that expectation, can you still find contentment? If you were going to die tomorrow, could you, could you still be okay without that thing? And, for me, it's just zooming out a little bit when I get stuck in that, and I do often, like the car, is can I zoom out enough and trust at that level that actually the whole world is working for me. It's working for me to find my way back to Guru. And if there's a reason why I haven't got it, there's a reason. Yeah.
And I guess the Simran practically is that practice of letting go over and over again, which is when the mind brings vichar and thoughts and you're doing the Simran, you're consciously choosing to let go of the thought. I feel like that's preparation for every single moment of your daily life, isn't it? Can I let go of this thought and allow make my plate kali so that the grace comes in, or so I can hear Vaheguru's voice, the Atma resounding.
And that connects to what we were saying earlier is, yes, the dukh is there to teach you and it's a valuable gift in that sense. But actually at the same time, if we can cultivate the Simran, the connection to Guru, we get the messages much earlier before the knock even comes. We can see through the window what's coming. But we have to have that mind that's clear enough, that's pavitra, that's pure enough to know before it even happens. Then we don't need the knock on the door. We don't need the pain as much. And, obviously we can't control anything, but it's not that the event has changed. Something might come into your life like a health issue, but you won't respond to it in the same way. It won't be such a big thing if you're connected in that way.
Yes. So it's like what you're saying, like, when you like looking out the window and you can see, okay, this is something coming your way. So it wouldn't be like a big slap or, it will be something that the way you go through it, there'll be more sahaja rather than reacting to it and, like a bomb blast. But it will be more like just a pinch, so you'll feel it that way as well. But all through the mind. If the mind is able to be purified, then how we see the world, how we see dukkha, our perspective changes really,
and then that becomes the preparation for next time. So as you called yourself a cancer survivor, right?
Actually, I don't even like the word cancer survivor because I know one way I'm going to die is cancer. I mean, if not other natural causes, but there's one way said. But you see, in a way, it's good because it reminds me that, be like you mentioned, what if death comes tomorrow? Or what if death comes the next moment? If we think like this, Benji, I feel that every moment that we live, every breath we take will be so conscious. When Gurbani says, Farida je jana til thorade, ta sammal book pari, that if I knew I have very limited sesame seeds, which is an analogy for breath, then I'll be very careful of how I spend each breath with. So in a way, then it's a reminder that, we are getting closer. I mean, again, some people would say that, thinking about death is so negative. But it's not. It's actually reminding us that, hey, our time is limited. Use that time wisely for something that will help you for the next journey.
Yeah. And I think there is that perspective, that, Sikhis like, it's all about praying, it's all about this, and it's kind of miserable, do you know what I mean? Like very serious kind of thing. And it was just, something I was contemplating this morning when I was walking. It was like, but if you don't, it doesn't mean you reject life. And it's the opposite. If you reject, and I'm just talking about me personally, if I'm rejecting, I don't want to be too attached to this. And it's not about the attachment, but again, if we come back to the painting and the painter analogy, if you can't appreciate that painting, you're not going to make a connection with the painter. So it's, yes, be in the world, enjoy the world, but just keep that connection, recognize who is the one who's given it to you, and who are you actually, as a creator as well, as Jyot Sarup, as the light, as the embodiment of Vaheguru. Vaheguru's put you here not to become a renunciate and hide in the corner.
And that's not the idea of Sikhi anyway, to renunciate. I mean, we must enjoy life, enjoy what Guru Sahib has given us. But remember, but be in gratitude of the one who has put us here in the first place.
And that's interesting because sometimes when people are given a certain time to live with cancer in particular, they'll go out, they'll book holidays and they'll live their life, they really enjoy it. And the question is obviously financial restraints and responsibilities into account. That's how our mindset should be day in, day out. Like this could be the last day, but in a joyful way, is if there's a family, kind of a family issue, would you be okay if this was your last day? Would you want to reach out and say sorry or say I love you?
Talking about that, Benji, there's one thing I started implementing was that if we do have like arguments in the house or we do have some disagreement and so on, we will never go to sleep upset. Right. So either one of us would always apologize before we go to sleep because again, what if we leave this world, or what if the next morning the person that we're upset with doesn't get up? And is that how we want to, leave this world or, So it's again that point.
And that's why we do Kirtan Sahila every night, because this might be it, and that's the same prayer or the same Gurbani we read on our death.
For me, it's about living consciously, and when you get to do that, then you can enjoy. Because I know that I've had days where I've not been able to be conscious, and I've been just scrolling on social media, or I'll be sitting there doing something, spend the whole day doing something that I wouldn't choose. But with the Sikhi, you're kind of forced to come into presence in this breath and the next breath. And the that's a practice, kind of training the mind. And then if you're living consciously, you get to make a choice about what you do.
Yeah.
Without that choice, you're just swept away by those subconscious, the bunch-jawed, all of those forces that have just been with you for janams. So it's a beautiful path. Yeah.
Thank you, Benji, for sharing your story with us. And we've taken loads of gems of wisdom, and we really hope that it's useful for people out there. And just remembering, these are our experiences. So, Bole Chukma.
Thank you so much for having me. And again,
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa,
Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.